All right, Jim. Well, let's go to our next topic here. And this is something I saw on Twitter the other day. Alan Blackstock, or on Twitter, Alan_cheapshot, posted a thread. I don't know if you would have seen this. Glassdoor reviews by former WWE employees / contractors.
I must admit, I saw this, but I had seen it before. It's not ancient. It's not like from 30 years ago, but it's been out there. I've seen it, but for the purpose of this program, we have not talked about it. So continue.
Are you familiar with Glassdoor?
Well, no, I wasn't familiar with that, but I understand the concept is that people who have worked in a specific place will give their thoughts and impressions on what the company is like to work for, or so that other people looking for jobs won't fall into a bad situation. Is that kind of a summary?
Or potentially tells people about a good situation, and it could be current or former employees, and it's all anonymous.
Right, anonymous.
Anonymous.
It's anonymous.
Well, I nominate this first one to start with. You could be released at any time. There's no benefits, no health insurance, and the contracts were extremely one-sided. Sounds like a wrestler there.
Well, I was about to say, now hold on here. That is a wrestler. Because the one thing I do know from my, what was that? Was it 2 weeks or 4 weeks as a WWF employee? You get benefits and insurance and things like that. Now, I don't know how it stacks up to other companies in the regular business world because I've never worked for any of them either. But yeah, you did get, if you were an employee, you get insurance and some of those benefits that real jobs apparently give people. So that must have been a wrestler, right? Because you can be released at any time. You get no benefits and you're pretty much fucked. And the contracts are one-sided.
Culture can be toxic at times. Long hours, not great pay, work on holidays.
That can be anybody. Anybody in the whole company, down to Howie the mailroom guy.
Terrible morale. Constant feeling that your job may not be there the next day. No work-life balance. I'm sorry to laugh about this. No one cares about you. Upper management has zero regard for your time. You might expect to sit in the office waiting to be called into a meeting until 9:30 p.m., only for it to be canceled at 9:29 p.m.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and again, there's nothing surprising, except honestly, in the 90s when I was there in the office and interacting not only with the wrestling, the talent relations people, but the rest of the office employees, studio people, whatever, the morale wasn't bad. They had the deal where Vince cut the wrestling people's pay in 95 that, pissed JJ off, caused Al Hayes to retire, the whole 9 yards. But as far as the employees, and especially everybody at the studio, everything that was said in those remarks you just read, it was true, except the morale wasn't bad. And most people enjoyed working there and enjoyed the people. There's nice people working there. There was only a few pricks. That, what the fuck was his name? The merchandise guy that went to prison. God damn it. But anyway, like that, but most of the people were nice. And especially the studio technician, the employees at the TV studio, a lot of them were young, especially the editors and the assistant producers and et cetera. And they weren't married, didn't have families. Some of them didn't. They'd sleep on the couch because they'd be there so long. They wouldn't want to leave and go to wherever their home was. Nobody could afford to live in Stamford because they all had to live away from the office. Because if I had to live 30 miles away, I don't know what the assistant, fucking floor manager over at the studio was making, but a lot of times they'd just sleep on the couch and be there all the time, but that was what it was.
Overworked staff. Major decisions are made last minute, literally day of. You have to be quick with the last minute changes or all hell breaks loose. High stress. Upper management has no idea what some of the departments actually do or how each department interacts with one another. Employees are nice people, though. Advice to management. So much damage has been done to the current staff. I feel sorry for the employees that are working there now. The organization is short-staffed, and there are people doing 3 to 4 other jobs aside from their own. Not cool.
I can't argue with anything that was said there either. But again, that's the thing when you've got a wrestling promotion that somehow suddenly, like Vince did, gets big and has to employ civilians not in the wrestling business full time, and they go in and take a job like it's working for any other company or any other television production or anything, and they're mortified. But I'm not surprised at anything, because to the days of the territories, if you were important in any way to your wrestling promotion, you did 5 jobs.
Unfortunately, it's a toxic work environment. Due to poor headquarter location, they cannot hire top talent, so they too often promote from within and hire their local friends. This leaves teams with people who lack the skills to do the job, which inhibits progress. Leadership.
Well, wait, hold on. They're in fucking Stamford, Connecticut. They're right next to New York City. They're not in Wartburg. What does that mean?
If you want New York talent, go to New York, quite frankly. I don't think Stamford's a great location for a major entertainment company in terms of wanting top talent. You need to get people who want to move to Connecticut, move to Stamford.
Well, who the fuck wants to move to Connecticut? Who the fuck wants to live in New York?
More people than want to move to Connecticut.
Good Lord. All right, keep going. To me, Stamford, Connecticut is about as big a fucking city as I ever wanted to fucking motivate in on a regular basis.
Leadership turnover is very high, causing constant instability and lack of representation for teams. Overall, people can be negative and disgruntled because they are affected by the lack of company support and a toxic culture. Keep seeing this word toxic over and over.
Yeah, hey, I'll tell you something else, too. If you're disgruntled, well, you ought to go in and talk to somebody and get back gruntled.
Diverse? Not so much. The environment was very political, and you could hear people talk about you if you don't fit in. It was a passive-aggressive vibe I got. If you're not a naturally extroverted person, this is not the place for you.
Boy, I can agree with that. And I get the passive-aggressive thing is when people say things that verbally could be considered nice, but the way that they say them or the place that they put them in, they're a fucking snide comment, right? I could say a lot of business people, a lot of people outside the wrestling business that are just in regular business are not used to having heated, spirited, vehement, potentially profane conversations with each other. And so they kill each other with the kindness and then cut their nuts off behind their back. But I can see that the wrestling folks, and Vince encourages that, not for people screaming and yelling and snatching each other around the neck, on a regular basis, but he encourages people to be extroverted and fucking join in whatever the fuck. And the wrestling people had no problem with that. Hey, motherfucker. Hey, fuck you. Now, fuck you. Oh, really? Well, okay. I guess it's not so bad. Okay. Hey, let's go down to the commissary. Normal people don't talk like that.
No merit. Terrible pay. No direction. Senior management is a joke.
God damn.
Everyone in charge is afraid of Vince McMahon and losing their jobs. At times, you may have to wear more than one hat. Pay for data scientists is below industry average.
I don't even know what a data scientist is or what the industry pay would be, but I can say, again, people that don't want to be in the wrestling business for their entire lives and aren't like there because it's the wrestling business and they just got a job, they probably think that a lot of those people are fucking lunatics. And I can see all of these things being said, and everybody was scared of Vince 30 years ago, but they weren't scared like cowering because Vince didn't go off on tangents where everybody was just fired and departments were closed and all the shit that goes on these days. If you were there for a while, as long as you didn't kind of fuck something up and get caught at it. But, I guess now they're just scared when Vince walks down the hall, he might point and say, you're fired.
Do not work here. Toxic and horrible. Unpredictability. No/limited holidays off. I've been called into work on Christmas and during my vacation. HR is a scam and are corporate robots.
God damn.
Nice, though. Communication is all over the place. This next person just says no free drinks in the lobby. I don't know if that's a legitimate complaint.
What the fuck?
Stress can be overwhelming at times.
What the fuck? Does everybody get free drinks in the lobby at everywhere else they work? I've never heard that as a critique. I've been in the lobby a few times. Normally I went in from the parking garage, but I've been in the lobby a few times. They didn't have any snacks or drinks or a drink machine or anything there.
Always on. There are 3 weekly live shows and 1 monthly pay-per-view, so there is no downtime. This is felt most acutely among roles that are directly involved with the creation and production of shows, but it permeates the whole culture. Extremely poor management culture. The family has created a culture where mid to senior level staff spend the majority of their time and effort managing up and CYA rather than focusing on the work.
What? Okay, this is business lingo. I know cover your ass, but what is managing up?
Managing up, I used to work with a guy at Sony who had a great reputation for being really good at managing up and really bad at managing down. He did a great job of kissing the ass of every executive above him and a horrible job of treating every single person below him.
I see.
General culture of suspicion, lack of trust in employees. For example, this is new. For example, when employees were put on temporary furlough during the pandemic, all system access was cut off and they were notified via text that they had been furloughed. There was a clear assumption that furloughed employees who were going to return as employees would try to steal or otherwise damage the company if allowed the access to systems. There is no career development. Advancement is based on tenure until one senior director or VP level. It's worded a little weird. At which point promotion and tenure are determined solely by one's navigation of company politics. What are your thoughts on the idea of the executives there only being able to manage up and not manage down?
Well, I mean, they've got a lot of new people since I've been there. And honestly, my experience wasn't like a normal employee, somebody in accounting or somebody in merchandising. Like I said, I was one of the wrestling people. And we were neither fish nor fowl at the office. We had offices in Titan Tower, but if Vince wanted us to write at his house, that's what we do. Or we were on the road sometimes with the shows, the TV tapings. So me, Bruce, JR, JJ, when he was there, any of the people that came from the wrestling business didn't experience a lot of this. And honestly, we couldn't identify it if we were looking at it. And my thing was always, I've told you, I wasn't scared. I wanted to do well. I wanted to please Vince, right? It's my job. I've committed to this. I've given my word. But anytime Bruce said, get a passport, we're going to do TV in fucking Kuwait. Well, let me know if it's a deal breaker, because I got to sign my lease here or elsewise go back to fucking Tennessee. I still own a house down there. I ain't going to fucking Kuwait. Or when they broke my windshield, I just went home for 3 days till I cooled off so I wouldn't yell at anybody. And then JR called and said they'd pay for the windshield. Okay, I'll come back. It was always like, I'm not nervous about the things that the normal employees would be nervous about because I'm a wrestling guy and I'm not wired that way. But I can see where it's just, you don't know what the fuck's going on. And if you've just wandered in there and you've never had a background in the wrestling business and you try to get a job there, it's probably like working in a fucking booby hatch or a lunatic asylum. But again, all I can say is 20-something years ago, people were happy there, even though they worked long hours and all those other things were true. It wasn't bad morale. Nobody was anxious to fucking leave, or at least saying that in public. And I think I would have got that idea. A lot of people would come in with joy on their face. Oh, look what we're doing. But, yeah. But the bigger the company gets and the more people there are and the more new people they brought in that don't have, a lot of those people don't know shit from apple butter about the wrestling business either. They're trying to do what you said, cover their own ass and act like they know what they're doing, and the people underneath them don't.
Well, the other thing is, there are probably people posting on here, in fact, I would bet on it, who have no idea about wrestling, even though they work there, and don't want to ever know about wrestling. They're talking about an actual job in the office, just in a business office, just in an entertainment company.
Yeah, that's got to be insane for normal people to get a job in the WWF and think it's going to be run like a normal business. It's wrestling. It's still, that's the thing. It's still wrestling. They just pretend like it's not, and they do a rotten job of presenting it, but it's still all the things that came from the wrestling business. So yeah, all that shit's going to go on.
And by the way, this thread just goes on and on and on. People destroying the company, hating the HR department specifically.
Well, the HR department was this two nice women 25 years ago. I'm sure they're probably retired now. They were in their mid-30s. Oh. So I'm sure they're gone. I won't even bring up their names.
HR department looks the other way and does nothing with so many abuse claims.
But again, I didn't have any reason to ever. The only time I interacted with the human resources department was that time they made me an employee, until the Ed Kaufman, the lawyer, found out I was still taking bumps on shows and said, well, you can't be an employee. Fine, then unemploy me. But that during the time I talked to the two ladies in HR, and they were wonderful. I don't know anything about abuse claims, because that's the thing. In those days, nobody was being abused. I wasn't being abused. Maybe every once in a while they'd rib me at the shows, but so I never had to deal with the human resources department or human relations or whatever it is. But I'll say this about the way that they've done now. Remember, they've not only said that they fired those people over text and they wouldn't let them back in to get their shit, but they've also, didn't they walk? Was it Canyon Seaman or was it somebody else that they walked them off the property? And they've had stories where they've let people go and actually had security walk them out and not let them go back into the office or whatever. We've heard a few of those.
And that happens in corporate America.
Well, no, that's one way that the WWF has changed. Think about this. When I was leaving to come back to Louisville for OVW, I told JR when I pitched him the idea, as I said, I'm leaving one way or another. I'm going home because there was nothing that I had left for me to do up there, and I was fucking at the end of my rope, right? So I said, pitch this, and then we'll all be happy. But I told JR in these exact English words, if I leave Connecticut to move to Louisville without this deal in place, I just want to let you know, JR, because we've been friends, I'm going to take a bat and hospitalize Vince Russo my last day here. Ah, Corny, come on. No, I just want to let you know. That is my plan. And then, of course, it happened that we had the OVW deal, so I could leave with the deal. I didn't want to screw that up, penalize Danny Davis. So for my everlasting regret, I didn't take a fucking ball bat to Vince Russo. However, the point I'm making is, when I left, I got going away cards that I still have. I found those in my file also, signed by everybody in talent relations and everybody at the TV studio. I went in and said goodbye to everybody, got all the stuff out of my desk in the office. There wasn't that much. I hadn't made it a point to fucking be there for a long time. I took the 18 by 24 framed portrait of Vince McMahon that was in my office when I moved into it out with me, and it's hanging on the wall here, his announcer picture with the gobsmacked face.
Wait, hold on. When you moved into the office, there was a framed Vince McMahon photo already in there?
The only thing in my office in the talent relations department on the 4th floor was a desk, a chair, and behind the door, when it opened, it was leaned an 18 by 24 full color photo of Vince framed in a white frame. He's got his announcer outfit on from the 80s, and he's doing the, oh my God face. And I said, that's what he looked like the day he found out I was going to come to work for him. So when I saw it, I said, when I leave here, whenever it is, I'm taking that picture with me. And I did. So I went in, got my goodbye cards, said goodbye to everybody, got my shit, carried that goddamn portrait out bigger than Christmas, and went on my merry way after having told the head of talent relations that if things didn't go my way, I was going to take a baseball bat to another motherfucker that worked there. And now they let people go and then walk them out so they don't have a chance to do anything. The culture has changed. I think one of the problems was they all liked me better than they liked Shitstain, so they didn't necessarily complain about it.
I'll end with one final one here. Do not make them mad. Jesus.
You won't like them when they're mad. See, I'm telling you, when you think about it, the people that are successful surviving the WWE hierarchy are all the people that either came from the wrestling business or have the mentality that they would have fit in the wrestling business. Just like, I don't give a fuck. If you say something to me crossways, I'm going to smack the shit out of you. And don't fuck with me. And those people, usually get along okay, or at least last a lot longer than the people that are like, oh, I wish you wouldn't fire me because I really need this job. If that's one thing I can tell you, Vince McMahon does not respect is whether or not you need the job or not, or whether or not if you grovel, you're fucking done. Remember everybody said fire up at him when he's blistered one of the younger guys. The veterans will say, he challenged you to a fight. Tell him, okay, we're going to go. Where do you want to start? Or elsewise he'll lose all respect for you. If that's another, all the wrestlers doing, oh, I'm so glad to be here. It's been my lifelong dream. Yeah, he'll wipe his ass on your lifelong dream. If you go in there and say, I'm going to draw you some fucking money because I'm the best in the business and you can back it up, that's when you're in.